Welcome to the Future of Less Work, where we're piecing together the transformation of work, one conversation at a time. I'm Nirit Cohen, and today we'll explore what we really know about the AI work already happening inside organizations. Organizations have always managed people because people were the ones doing the work. Now, the people in the organization are using AI, but the work isn't visible to leadership, finance, or HR. Executives see data on AI adoption, but what they're really tracking is activity, licenses, logins, or usage. They're not measuring business outcome. They don't see the work AI is performing, what value it creates, and where it replaces humans, because all of our management systems are still focused on managing the people. My guest today says this best. AI is operating labor in a software costume. Lexi Reese is the founder and CEO of Lanai, a company focused on giving enterprises visibility into how AI is actually being used across the business. So today's conversation is about visibility because you can't redesign work you cannot see, and because you can't manage what you don't measure. Lexi, welcome to the Future of Less Work.
I am so excited to talk about someone who cares about org charts and P&L as much as I do in the AI era. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Org charts are another one of those things we need to be blowing up. But let's start with visibility. What I actually wanted to start with was your 2026 AI labor report. You described 4 stages that we're moving through as we learn to work with AI, from working where humans own all the work, to all the way to fully executed by agents. And I was wondering, are we moving through these stages, or does different work belong in different categories?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we think about work as work that humans only do, work that humans do with assistants, AI assistants, co-pilots, and agents. So the 4 levels are, for humans, you have level 1, level 2, level 3. For AI, the assistant is level 1, so it's A level 1. The co-pilot that has a workflow that it's responsible for and has a beginning, middle, and end, that the human relies on the co-pilot to execute so the human can do other things, that's level 2. And then an autonomous agent is level 3. And it is not a linear progression. It actually is a really important distinction that you understand these levels and know enough about your workflows and how your product and service gets made, so you can make intentional decisions on what level or combination of human and AI is right for your business.
Okay, that's really important, because you're basically saying there might be places where we don't want the AI, we actually want the human.
Yeah. And I think that this is why this moment, which I think we've moved from curiosity in 2023 and 24 to experimentation in 2025 to now 2026, is about accountability. Like, AI is about to stop being an innovation story and start being a finance and operations story. And the questions are not, as you led in your intro so nicely, are you using AI? But it's, what did you get for it? And not how many seats or tokens are we spending, but what work actually changed. And if anybody, I've been an operator for 25 years. I started this business to give operators a platform to make good decisions about, sometimes a human should do work unassisted by AI. Sometimes they'll need assistance. And when you make that decision, you make it because you have an expectation of what that decision will produce in the business. You will get a better outcome because you made a specific labor decision. And what we saw happening was that was not the way people moved into AI. When CEOs said, hey guys, we're going to be an AI first organization, use more AI, max out your tokens. It's sort of the equivalent of, I built Google's programmatic advertising business. It's like the only thing that mattered was clicks. Are people clicking on your ads? Well, it turns out you don't want to max tokens, you want to max outcomes,
Yeah.
just like you wanted to max outcomes for your advertising. So I'm excited that people like you and others are now really talking about, okay, what is the role of AI as a part of our labor force?
Yeah. So I mean, there's a number of things going on in what you just said. The first is obviously you got what you measure, right? And but also if you go back to how this evolved, right? We actually did enter this phase through grassroots, right? People brought AI in way before the organization knew what to do with it. And I think there's a lot of work still going on with AI that is not organizational led. It's not top down. It's not about here's what we're trying to do. It's not the conscious conversation of what should go to humans, what should go to AI, and how do I redesign the work, which is why I really loved this idea of let's get visibility into what's going on, because maybe people are doing some really good stuff, even though it didn't come up from the top.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in our work with enterprises, we work with businesses mostly. They have 1,000 employees or more. And the AI labor report is based on survey work and experiential work with 200 organizations and AI decision makers who own the budget for what tools and applications they would be investing in going forward. And from that work, we see that 53% of substantive AI work or collaborative work is done with applications and agents that definitively did not get mandated by the IT team or the AI central workforce. They came from employees who know best how to perform their job, exactly as you said, bringing in what they thought would enable them to do their job better. And I think that that's really so very different than AI tool or sorry, than software tools in the past. Software tools in the past, your IT system or your leadership team bought them and you were trained on how to use them to get your work done. And now people know how to do their work and they're saying, this will help me do it better. And I feel like when organizations get religion around that, that's innovation. Like you have ROI hiding in plain sight. But if you can't see not just what apps they're using, that's kind of beside the point. It's more what work is being done with AI, how many hours of work is AI doing for you, what's the cost of your AI work per hour. So we often are helping people understand, look, the token is a made up unit, but you understand labor economics. Lanai makes tokens visible in the same way Workday made human labor visible. So you can see it, you can manage it, and you can scale it in the way that you want.
Yeah, we put a lot of processes, though, around people to manage work, right? It's not, you didn't just bring in the unit of person, the headcount, right? You also created performance and you created roles and responsibilities and you created metrics for what you expect them to do and what they ended up doing. We did a lot of that. When we're looking at token these days, we're actually looking at usage. Like you said, the clicks for the ads, that's a beautiful one. We already know that's not working, right? We know that. But what we can't figure out is what does success look like? It's almost like the performance review for the agent.
Right. Yeah. So what I say back is I see this sometimes, I'm sure you do too. Something new happens technologically and we celebrate the newness and hark and herald the innovation. And then we think about the operationalizing of it after. So, our data shows that basically 78% of CEOs are saying, hey, we're 2 years into this journey and the results are meh. They're meh. Like, so sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I said, yeah, I mean, all survey after survey and study after study, in the 1 digit, doesn't matter if if it's 5 or 12, doesn't matter.
Yeah. And the technical piece of why that is, the structural piece, like you said, what gets measured gets managed. AI work isn't measured. Lanai solves for that. The far bigger thing is culture. And I think a lot of CEOs and leadership teams forgot about what's the ultimate purpose of integrating AI into our product and our service and our sales. It's that human agent teams as our operating model enable us to deliver higher value for customers. Like, that's what we're in it for. We want to produce a good or service that customers love and stay with for a long time. So I feel like CEOs that I see doing this really well state that, like, hey guys, there's a lot of mythos and intrigue about AI. I want to be clear. Humans, all of you, and agents that we're building or buying or renting are part of our operating model. And what that means is, and then they have to get definitionally accurate. We want 15% more capacity in our most important work. Maybe that's orders processed or patients seen or products shipped or cases closed. But the deal, I'm going to make a deal with you employees. I'm the leader of this organization. If our customer experience does not improve, and if our employee experience does not improve in the way we are integrating and scaling AI in our business, we will not scale it. We have to nail it so that it produces better customer outcomes and it makes your work, and I know you're passionate about this and write a lot about this, less tedious. So you have more time for judgment and relationships and solving real problems. And if a CEO is brave enough to say that, like, look, we need to do this for our customers, but to do that for our customers, we're also going to be measuring really maniacally how is AI impacting your jobs. And we're going to celebrate people who find new workflows that are really great case studies in how to use co-pilots or agents. That's so much more empowering for
Yeah.
employees.
So just want to make sure I hear you correctly, right? What you're saying is not just about visibility into AI and measuring AI usage in maybe in better ways. It's measuring the AI people teams around the work that needs to get to create value. It's doing what is now possible in new ways, right? So we should be measuring the units that are now a combination.
Right. Yeah. And I think there's basically three roles in AI human operations. There's the people doing the work who try things, who keep what actually helps, and who tell us where AI makes their day better or worse. Those people I feel like are makers, but usually they're on the front line or a couple removed from the front line. And you want them to try new AI workflows on real tasks and give you honest feedback of what helps or breaks. And when I say honest feedback, obviously I'm biased, but I don't think this is one-off surveys. I think it's having a system of record like Lanai so you can see what work people are doing in what systems. And if they keep coming back and doing more of it, then you know that that's something that is helping them do their job. If they try it once and abandon it, then it's not helping them. And then you have the managers and the specialists who sit with those folks on the front lines. I call these people the shapers. So you've got the makers and the shapers who turn those experiments. They see what people are doing that is positively impacting their work and customer experience or sales or coding. And they go where the energy is and they help clear playbooks available for everybody else, not based on the theory of what AI can do, but based on, hey, Nirit is doing this incredible thing in our marketing team using AI in the following ways. And if we all do that, we're going to be able to get brand awareness and consideration among new customers that we never could. And then finally, the senior leaders, what's the goal of the senior leader in this world? It's set the goal of what this should ultimately look like in our P&L. If we do this work, are we increasing revenue per head? Are we growing revenue at a speed that is greater than what we've historically grown revenue in relationship to costs? But if it's a business, there is a numeric goal, and the guides are the one who are saying, these are the goals. we're going to remove blockers, and we are going to hold on to the promise that we won't scale any AI workflows that don't also improve, again, both customer experience and employee experience.
Which is really important because technically people could be using AI to do things that don't matter.
Exactly. So we separate AI work hours. So we think of Lanai a little bit like Waze that's monitoring traffic. So we observe work, not workers. We're saying, hey, there's a lot of traffic in the finance team in these apps for these reasons. So we have proprietary models that read the data of every AI interaction, and we cluster that into this was the job that was being done. So forecasting and financial analysis. This is a real story. So we say there's a lot of work being done for financial analysis in preparation for public earnings announcements. And when you see that happening, you can go one step further. You can say, okay, is that work we want to have happening in this way on these tools, but also at this cost? So we showed a company with our token tuner product. They had one finance team, but two subgroups that were doing the same work, which was, again, earnings prep. And one was using a model that was 5x more expensive than the other group doing the work. So they were relying on their AI colleagues to actually do the financial analysis and the presentation materials. But for the exact same output, they were paying 5x more, not because they chose to pay 5x more, but because they didn't know that the right model for that task was something different. And they could never have decided that from on high. They needed the visibility of seeing the work that their humans were doing with AI colleagues in the context in which they could read it, how they read everything else, which is, we'll get to the org chart and why it feels very compromised at this moment. But you can understand, oh, if I get a mental framework, like there are 3 different levels of AI workers, and humans are always standing in relation to those levels, either as they're prompting and forgetting, and they're still totally in control of the results, or they're relying on some AI colleague for a particular set of results, or the AI is really like an entry-level worker or a second-level worker doing work that needs to be managed. Whatever it is, you can't feel any confidence that you are making the right decision of what combination works for the customers you're serving if you're not constantly in an always-on way reading the traffic report. And where is their traffic? Where are their clear routes? Where do you want to direct people to go next? So I think this idea that leadership teams can go like they did in SaaS behind closed doors and come out with the on high recommendation for this is what we're doing are the organizations that will be left behind, because your employees actually know how to make their work better, but you just need to see them and see what they're doing in a non-creepy Big Brother way so that you can learn from them. And then get your organization to a freaking cutting edge level.
Yeah, I think I would even maybe add to that, because you did say that, and I saw in the report that some people in the organization are leading the way, whether they're building stuff or exploring stuff. And then one is, can you see that so that it doesn't stay with a person or team, but it can actually shift through to whoever else needs it, right? And then the second aspect is, the rate of change is not going to slow down. And so at any given time, there will be people figuring things out. And then how do you see those little, I don't know if they're success stories, but the places that work better, and then keep moving it down to the rest of the organization, or the other version, the ones where we're treading water, either using tokens that don't amount to anything, or we started calling it work slop, people creating wonderfully beautiful work that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that what's interesting to me about this, sort of finishing my point of we sometimes fall in love with the, I guess we're not nuanced in the conversation of new technology sometimes. So what's the same about, people compare this to the cloud era and the introduction of software as service as a real revolution in enterprise. The real difference is, though previous technologies have automated processes, and this technology automates cognition, and it is booked as a software expense, but it acts like labor. And for every other major capital investment or functional investment in labor, you have an expected return on investment. So for a marketing team, I expect a certain ratio of the lifetime value of a customer relative to the cost to acquire that customer. And for engineering, I expect a certain number of high quality production sprints. And I could go through the list, but because we have this antiquated, even kind of stopping at the Industrial Revolution concept of a double entry accounting system and an org chart that, like you said, started in the railroad days to just organize process of hundreds of railroad workers. We are still really new in how do we organize around software, i.e. AI, that actually does work and breaks the way we have traditionally accounted for that work and organized that work.
Well, I think, and that's why we started with, if it's not software, but intelligence, right? It's part of your workforce. What are the processes? Somebody actually told me in an interview that I did this week that hasn't gone public yet, that they actually have performance reviews with their agents, which is a way of saying, tell me how I could give you the information better, and I will tell you what I want you to provide in a better way. And so they called it learning together, right?
Yeah.
And I thought that was a fascinating observation, because suddenly you start thinking about this in terms of intelligence we need to co-work with, collaborate with, sometimes lead, sometimes being led by.
Yes, totally. And I would take it one step further of treat AI execution cost as a labor line, not an IT line, and allocate it to the workflows it executes. So for marketing, whether they're using autonomous agents or co-pilots or assistants, the marketing leader has a plan every year, and they say, to deliver this set of KPIs, often having to do with new customer acquisition or brand awareness, this is how many people I need, and this is the monetary budget I need. Now add to that, this is how many AI workers I need in what composite, like co-pilots or assistants or agents. And when you produce your inevitable quarterly or monthly, how are we doing against our goals? Explain, here's what the human team did, here's what our AI team plus humans did, here's what AI did on its own, but you're responsible for that. So in marketing, again, LTV to CAC should go up using AI well, but if you don't have the marketing leader on the hook for utilizing AI well in their organization to drive that metric, you're just governing, we call it faith-based budgeting. You're just like holding it on faith that the right thing will happen without giving someone direct, responsible imperatives to make sure it does happen.
So I agree, but I don't want to say a but. I know I shouldn't. I should say an and.
That's okay.
But I'm going to do
That's
a but
okay.
in a second. So here's where org charts and the way we measure people get in the way, right? Because you said there are people in the organization that know how to do this right. I also want them to serve a bigger purpose, not just be the function for marketing, but also be the help me spread the right things across the organization. And what we know is happening today is that roles and responsibilities and the fact that I get measured on my deliverables, I'm going to keep my people doing the stuff that benefits my deliverables. And so I'm not letting them help bring everybody along.
Great point. Great point. And this kind of gets to like activity metrics versus outcome metrics. And if you really want to get the most from AI, you sort of have to release yourself from the notion of organizationally how that work got done in the past. So let me address that. I think that that's a big ask of organizations, and I think it's a bit crawl, walk, run. Next year, I'm going to say next 2 years, for big enterprises, there's not going to be huge blowups to the traditional org chart where you had production teams, if you're in tech, R&D, and you have go-to-market teams, marketing, sales, and then you have foundational teams that are meant to support the healthy hygiene of the business running legally and from an HR compliance standpoint. I think for savvy organizations, practically, they're picking 3 workflows that really matter, that are cross-team, and they're putting, I don't know if you red team, blue teams, everybody has a different like witty name. They're basically creating a little bit of a moonshot factory that says, in order to get this really important work done, we work with a biotech firm, for example, that's saying, we want to get to market with a drug that solves this really important disease in the next 3 years. And they're saying the way we do that, it would take 7 to 10 years at best if we continue to follow the order of operation that we always have. So instead, they use Lanai to find the champions who were taking innovative approaches across all different functions, from supply chain to genetic testing to you name it. And they put them together as a scrum team on this particular disease. And they gave them a budget and they gave them the empowerment to say, your goal is find a cure to this disease in the next N years.
And now they remove structures, they
remove structures. Yeah. In fact, they're doing something, I can't remember what it was. I feel like there was a movement a while ago called holacracy, but it was not a tops-down org chart. It was project-based.
It's like not structured management and different way to manage.
In the historical way. They have, I think of it more like Ocean's 11. They just have people representing all functions who are the best at that thing, who collectively have been given full reign to solve this very important business problem. And I think when you do that, I say pick 3 workflows that are equivalent in your organization and give people the freedom to explore the end result and get to the end result without too much restriction. Then you're gonna start to see the best of both worlds. Like, marketing needs to happen in the way marketing has happened, slightly accelerated with AI, and to hold the head of marketing accountable for making sure that AI is supporting marketing goals as we've thought of them in the past. But have your designed workflows that you really think are going to help make you competitive and differentiated, and allow a scrum team to really work on those.
Yeah. And so you're also saying it's going to take a long time to figure out how to build big organizations a different way, but you can definitely build projects. And if you start with understanding the people who are more comfortable building and innovating with these tools and remove the barriers, you're going to start seeing what that can do for you. I think that's fabulous. So as we start wrapping up, I'm wondering, when you think about AI executing more of our work, are you able to see what is uniquely human?
I've thought a lot about this because it's hard to say this answer in a non-hackneyed way. Usually when I hear people talk about this, there's something about relationships and creativity and innovation. And I think all of that is true. However, sometimes I believe the most innovative people, the most creative people, the most empathetic people who end up being credited with a breakthrough in their field or their function are people who have come up learning the basics. So, you don't become a great writer just one day. You learn how to structure a sentence and you learn basic rules of grammar, and you don't become a great financial analysis analyst and hedge fund manager one day. You crunched the spreadsheets, and same with everything, doing the work of the work and not having it be arbitrated or mediated by an assistant is how you develop good judgment to solve complex compound issues.
Which is a really big problem these days, because we are taking all the work around the work that we learned through and outsourcing it to AI.
Yeah. And I think it should be of extreme concern that a large university, I won't share which one, at May, we do these pour and ponder dinners with leaders responsible for making big org decisions with respect to how AI is now entering their workforce in the way you and I have been talking about today. And a large university came to one and said, at this point of the year, it was May or just before then, we have 80% of our graduates, undergrads, placed in jobs. And right now we have 60%. And this I find to be the least creative use of AI is just cheap labor. I don't need to do that entry level work with humans. I will just get the entry level work of financial analysis or research or copywriting done with AI, because AI can do it. And that will be good. Maybe you're going to get a 7-year run using AI in that way. And 7 years later, people retire, agents break. You have different systems tools that are now hot, and we can't even remember. Some of these LLMs, it's like Facebook and MySpace and Orkut back in the day. It wasn't totally clear that one was going to be the runaway favorite. And we will look back on this time as it was so quaint. And if you don't have people that actually, I can tell you a story about why Lanai becomes organizational memory for an organization, because regardless of tool, we're giving you cross-tool attribution of how work gets done, so you never forget it, and it's only yours, and it's not owned by another LLM. But nothing beats the historical memory of human beings to, when faced with another human being, to build a product or to serve a customer, can feel the pain and respond to the pain differently. And so I know that's not like a pithy podcast answer, but it is about when you experience the work of the work, your ability to innovate on the work becomes sharper and crisper, and your ability to wow customers, because you've seen all that went into the sausage making of a product they're now struggling to make sense of or use or what have you. You have greatness potential, because then those people can continue to manage or work alongside of their AI colleagues in the best, highest order, never been done before way.
Yeah, I actually think it's a good answer. And I have to say that the way I've been talking about this is that we don't even have the words to describe the nuances of human contribution that go into the work and that make every one of us unique, whether it's as individuals or as organizations. And if everyone's using the same AI, right, then we ultimately, you, your customers, your suppliers, everyone's using the same AI. You're going to make another white t-shirt and forget what made you you in the first place.
100%.
It's the people in the organization, the way they ask, the way they follow up, the way they use the tools that ultimately makes you different than everybody else using the same tools.
Yeah. 100%. Don't be a lemming. Like, the easiest thing to do is cut jobs and hire AI for 19 cents on the dollar. And that, if you do that, and you may do that for a portion of jobs, but if you do that, go in eyes wide open to what that choice will do to your product, not for quarterly earnings, not even for your term limit as CEO, but for the next generation of people who are going to be leading and growing and differentiating your product or service that somewhere, sometime you felt so passionate about, needed to be in the world, and you brought it into the world in a unique way. And so make a decision, and I feel this way about all things, not for you, but for the generation we're borrowing this from.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. Wow, Lexi, I can go on forever, but we're going to wrap this up. And I usually do that with a question for a question versus an answer. So what do you think is the question we should all be asking ourselves these days about the future of work?
What will we be proud to tell our children and the next generation that we created? What is the legacy that we want to lead? And if you were in technology since 2007 and you helped to create the internet and social media, SaaS, look back on what you created and ask yourself, are you proud? And if you feel that there's some answer that is not 100% yes, then look at what we can do for the next 20 years to make sure that we harness this incredible technology to benefit more people than it hurts.
Yep, absolutely. Which kind of goes with the future of less work, less of what doesn't matter and more of what does. Thank you, Lexi, for joining me today. It's a fascinating conversation. For more on Lexi's work and Lanai, as well as Lanai's 2026 AI Labor Report, you'll find all the links in the episode descriptions. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to follow The Future of Less Work wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, your best people do not work because they have to. They don't work because you tell them to or because you measure them on it. They work because they want to. Because by working for you, they're doing what's important for them in life. Till next time.